Okay, so I have the gun completely torn down, and I just wanted to point out a couple of things that I noticed. Back here, I guess what process they were using to finish this, their Kim Pro 2 finish, or Kim Pro finish or whatever, um, it left a lot of debris back here in this channel for the channel for the extractor and the firing pin. The firing pin especially should be really clean and smooth as far as the internals. And it was like a hardened debris, and it wasn't carbon. It was like this coating that they put on there. But I took a brush and ran through both channels and polished it up in there, cleaned up all the debris. That could have caused light primer strikes. So that's one thing I took care of. And I'm just kind of going over these parts now that I have it completely stripped. There's a lot of debris from the finishing process, and I'm looking for burrs or any kind of imperfections I could find while only disassembled. Let me turn the light on here, see if that would help. Slide looks all right, besides the channels. Mainspring housing, it's good to go. Barrel looks good to go. Spring, all that stuff looks good to go. One pet peeve I do have is when you get a scratch on your grip safety. It happens though, but I wish they could smooth up the internals to where that wouldn't happen. Probably gonna refinish that. And right here is where it scratched. You can see inside there too. But it's smooth. I think that was actually caused by debris. So again, a lot of debris built up from the manufacturing process. There was also a lot of debris in the channel for the trigger. That's another thing you won't see unless you have it completely disassembled. So that was another thing. This could be a little more polished. Let's see. Small parts are all right, but the main thing that I said in the first part was right here. You can see the scratches from the ambi safety, from the way they fit it. And you can see here, they removed some material trying to fit it, but they didn't do quite a good job finishing that because it's still scraping. And then they didn't even put a finish on there. And then the other side, you can see them fitting. This is from the Kimber factory. Yeah, this is them fitting the safety. Didn't even put a finish on it afterwards. No big deal. I'm not going to stress about that, but I'm going to take this down a little bit more so that it doesn't scrape the side, because I really don't want it to scrape the side. So there's that. And now that I have it completely disassembled, I'm gonna do the work on it now. So I'm excited to do this project today. I'm gonna be showing y'all how I polish up flat surfaces on guns. This is the best way, I think, to get a nice even mirror finish on your gun or any kind of flat surface. And I'm gonna show you step by step, but not the whole process, because that would take forever. This is a very long process. You got to be patient. You can't skip any grits. You can't cheat yourself. You have to make sure every time you proceed on to the next grit that your last pass is complete. And I'll show you how I do it. So first off, this is the Kimber Rapide Scorpius 10mm, and I'm going to be polishing up the flats on this one. And first thing I do, you got to get a flat surface, a very flat surface, very flat and smooth. You can't have any divots in it, any waves. This is some marble from Floor and Decor. And then the other thing is you want to have it very clean. So I'm gonna wipe this down with some alcohol to make sure I don't have any, I feel little bits on there, little pieces are stuck on dirt from previous projects, stuff like that. make sure it's very clean and dry. Okay. And I'm feeling as I go too to make sure I don't feel any little bumps or divots. Okay, so I'm starting off with 1000 grit because the surface on this is already pretty true, and we'll see if the 1000 grit will cut through whatever finish that Kimber ended up with, whatever grit they ended up with. And I'm going to do this dry. Oh, the other thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go do this off camera, is to clean the part that you're going to polish. Right now this is covered in oil. I'm not going to do this wet. I'm going to do this completely dry. So if you're choosing oil, if you're choosing water or oil, whatever wet surface or wet material you're going to use to wet the surface, you still want to clean it off, because you don't want any of the grit or any kind of carbon that was left in the gun to get underneath the grit and cut into the finish as you're going. So I'm going to go clean this off, and then I'll be right back and I'll show you how I set up. All right, so I'm going to start off with the slide, and keep this image in your mind, what grit this, or what this looks like here. So when I go run this down on the 1000 grit, we'll see what the difference looks like. I just cleaned this off with rubbing alcohol, 91%, and that's what I also use to clean the surface of this. And this is what I use. This is my preference. And sandpaper is Norton, and this is a 1000 grit. And if not that, that's the aluminum oxide. Let me just make sure. I think that's aluminum oxide. Not sure, but that's my preference there. But if not that, and when I do get to the higher grits, like say 2000 and up, I prefer this brand here. You can get it on Amazon, Matador. It's made in Germany. Pretty high quality stuff. It's silicone carbide, so you can get up to 7000 grit with this stuff. All right, now set up. What I'm going to do is tape this down to the surface. Excuse me if that was loud. So the top, I'm going to start with the top first. And you want to have sandpaper. I kind of had this sitting around for a while, so it's not in the best shape. You can see there are wrinkles and folds in it and stuff. But you want your sandpaper to be brand new, straight, no flaws in it. So now I have the top taped down, and you want this as flat as you can get it. So I'm gonna get the bottom piece started here, tape it onto the sandpaper first, and then I'm gonna pull it tight as you can without ripping it. I just took off the top part. Hang on. Okay. All right. Let's try it again. So the top I got on there, nice and tight. And then the bottom, stick it onto the paper first. And then pull this tight as you can. Because you don't want this paper to wave up or anything as you're Here's your sanding. I don't like this right here. I'm gonna redo this. And the way I'm handling this right now with my skin and everything, it's not too bad yet because we're on the relatively low grit number. So we're going to be doing some rough work pretty much. 1,000 grit is actually pretty high, but for a mirror finish, that is very low. But this is going to be a drastic change from what came from the factory. All right, it's not flexing up too much because as I'm sanding, it's going to have a little bit of a wave in front of the part. And you don't want that because that's going to cause your edges to not be as sharp as you want them. All right, so the first step is look at your previous grain. You see the grain is running this way. We're going to go at a 45 angle, and the reason we're going to do it is so that if I was to go straight 90, there's a chance that I can roll and cut into the black finish here. I don't want that. I want this to be a sharp, smooth line. So what I'm going to do to try to avoid that is sand at a 45, and also I'm going to have more pressure, or I'm not going to have any pressure coming towards this part, so I don't run the risk of rolling it over. Now the other key thing to keep it straight is not to put too much pressure. You want just enough pressure to keep the part flat. Let the sandpaper do the cutting. So you don't want to roll this way. And I'm going to do this kind of like a file where I'm focusing more on this stroke towards this bottom piece. And the reason I'm focusing on this bottom piece is because if I do roll over, or if it catches, you're not really going to notice it. It's going to be down here. You're not going to see it. But up here, you'll definitely notice a scratch from a mistake. So anyway, let's get started. When you put it down, make sure you're not putting it down on a part that you don't want to sand, obviously. So now I got even pressure all around. Don't try to focus on one part or this part or in the middle or on the front as you're going. You want it nice and even. So there we go. And as I set it down, I'm setting it down. Ideally, I would want to set it down perfectly flat on the side, but I know that's never going to happen. So as I'm setting it back down, I'm setting it on a little bit more towards this edge. That's how I'm keeping it from putting too much pressure on the side that I really don't want to sand. Or you can just keep it flat like this. But like I said, not too much pressure in one focused area and not too much pressure down, because you don't want it to roll. You don't want the chance of it rolling. Let me put this more at 45. I kind of was turning it there a little bit. And this is just sandpaper progression. So we're going to start off with 1,000 grit, and you just keep going up pretty much. So I'm not going to show the entire process of me going up, but basically you finish this grit. Once you see that your lines are all at a 45, and you look at it in the light, and don't lie to yourself, you don't see any previous 90-degree marks. So you can see there are some 45-degree marks now, but you can still see the straight lines. So don't lie to yourself. Make sure you get every one of these lines out as you're going. And then you can also check, because this will tell you when a part is not evenly machined or something like that. But you can see there's a little bit more of a focus here. But overall, I'm seeing marks across the entire surface. So that's about it, really. You just keep going. Just keep going up in sandpaper. And every time you alternate, change direction. So when I go to 1500, I'm going to be sanding in this direction. That way I can see that my 45-degree lines are all gone. And then once I am done with 1500, I go to 2000, go back to 45, so I can see that the straight lines are gone from the 1500. So that's pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to go ahead and finish this off camera, and then I'll show you what it looks like at the end. Let me back out so you can see it better. Polish this up a little bit, get my fingerprints off. But yeah, it's all polished throughout. I have been handling this because I wasn't planning on treating it like a safe clean, but there it is. Gotta remember, if I pointed that out, scratch on the grip safety and the manual safety here. And that's really just the cheap finish wearing off, the Kim Pro finish. I'm not a fan of that. If I could start over, I would Cerakote this first. I would strip this down, Cerakote it. Make sure, like I'd use a real finish like Cerakote instead of this Kim Pro finish, and then I would have polished it. Because now if I try doing it over, I'm gonna have to blast all this finish off, and I don't want to do that. So, but there it is. All right.